Live on Monday night Live. Welcome everybody to Monday Night Live.
Oh,
Dean Nixon,
sorry.
Kate Semmens.
That was so funny to me.
Super excited.
We pop on and Dean goes live.
I get, it's still a miracle to me.
Just
still a miracle to me.
Technology is a miracle.
Technology. So welcome to Monday Night Live. Kate Semmens, Dean Nixon, Turning Leaf in St. George, Utah. Super excited to join you tonight and to visit with you about our topic. I'm super excited about. But first of all, Kate, how was your travels?
It was cold, but it was good.
So she was up north in northern Utah, just came back. She literally hurried back down here from the cold north, cold tundra of the north, in order to be back down here in time for our live Monday Night Live. So
because you guys are important to me, as well as it's my big thing that I'm working on right now, right, Dean, is to keep my commitments.
Keep your commitments.
Yes.
Keep your commitments. Super proud of you to do that.
Which actually even leaks into our topic.
Yes.
But it was lovely to go up and I visited with some friends and stuff like that, which was really cool too. So,
very good.
Thank you for asking.
So our topic for tonight is?
Well, you guys, we are like closer and closer to the holliest, jolliest time of the year, right? And pardon me.
Your phone's
just
alerting
had
us.
A spending notification come in, and I don't want Dean to see how much I'm putting on my credit cards right now. So
I wasn't even looking.
Just kidding. I'm just teasing. But this time of year, we kind of touched on it last year too, a little bit. So if you want to go back and look at our other lives that we did over like a year ago, they're all up on the YouTube as well, our YouTube channel.
And you'll see the beard.
You'll see the Jedediah beard.
The beard. Kate had a beard last year. Okay, it was me.
OMG. But anyway, so our topic tonight is heading down that holiday track. So we'll probably kind of stay in this vein for a little while because it's really important to be able to use some of the coping skills that we're always talking about during this time of year. And particularly the topic tonight that we wanted to discuss was being true to yourself. Right?
Around the holidays.
Around the holidays.
And this is one that, as we were talking about it and really getting prepared for this webisode, one of the things that we're seeing a lot, especially with families and some of the individuals that we're working with, is the need for boundaries, the need to really stay grounded and true to who you are through the holiday season. Sometimes that's very hard to do in general, but in the holidays, it can be even more difficult.
Absolutely. It just seems like everybody's wanting to throw a party and everybody wants, maybe it's just me because I'm so much fun, but everybody wants you to attend, right? And there's only so many days and so many evenings that you can afford to do that. And then there's like obligations that come in the way. So I love that we're talking about this tonight because quite literally in 2 weekends, I have to split myself into 4 humans. I don't know how I'm going to do it.
It will be intriguing. I guess we'll get a report. I'm intrigued.
Oh, cloning needs to become a thing.
And with the family dynamics and the way that families are changing nowadays, it really does create more of a challenge. Where we've got families that are blended families, we got families with extended families, and so many different family dynamics. The important thing for us to do is to really figure out how to be true to you. We talked about it, again, we did talk about it not only last year, but around the Thanksgiving webisode. And we were talking a lot about bringing into the experience the energy that we want to create rather than allowing the environment to dictate the energy that we feel.
Right.
And that is a hard thing to do as a human being, especially when we're going into our own family dynamics, where a lot of times they pull us back into old beliefs about who we are. And sometimes not just by the fact that you're entering into that environment or you're entering into the home, but they will literally remind you of things just to rub it in or tease you or just to get your goat. And so these are things that we have to really pay attention to because they do affect our ability to be true to who we are, especially those of you that have been working on this transformation process. So many people right now are really starting to rise to the challenge of improvement and self-improvement and manifesting the life that they want to create, manifesting the energy that they want to create, moving through old issues, relieving themselves of old wounds. And as you're working through all these things and doing all this work, oftentimes it's very discouraging when you go back into an environment, or you go back to an old behavior, or you go back to an old dynamic, and we find ourselves back into that routine trying to be true to us.
Right. And I think a lot of that just like flips that switch where it's like, oh my goodness, I've worked so hard and I feel like I've made a lot of improvements, and I'm like becoming better at being true to myself and having better boundaries and using coping skills and all those kinds of things and healing those things like you were talking about. And then we get put in those situations and it's like a backtrack, and that can be super frustrating. Very
frustrating. So it is important for us to create some grounding opportunities and some grounding pieces to help us stay true to who we are. And one of the most important pieces for us is to really, and this one, I know a lot of you are going to just roll your eyes because this is one of the toughest ones, which is self-care. We really have to stay connected to our self-care, because during the holidays is where a lot of people get off track and they get off the rails because it's the holidays.
Right.
So we're up late, we're out late, we're overextended. And as a consequence of that, we get off of schedules, we get off of routines, we get out of, and not only that is we create this belief system that in order for me to show love, I have to put myself last. And that if I'm putting myself first, not in a selfish put myself first. Now that's the difference. If I'm putting myself first in a sense of, hey, I have to take care of me so I can take care of you way, that's a super healthy place for us to be. But a lot of times we think, oh, that's selfish, or it will be perceived as selfish. And so as a consequence, we get off of that self-care, that schedule, that regime.
Right. And for me, the weather doesn't help. Like the getting darker super early and super cold. So then that like also kind of derails everything, because all you want to do is be home chilling by your Christmas tree, drinking a bunch of eggnog, and which can feel nice and good. But I love that you were saying that, like, we just get off our routine.
We do. And so we've got to really work on our self-care routines, and we've got to stay rooted and grounded in those. We need to do, if you're doing your daily readings and your daily meditations, these are things that you need to figure out a way to integrate them into the holidays, or into those activities, or into, if you're traveling, it gets hard. So work it, be planning ahead, finding ways. How do I put this into a way that I can still participate or engage? Sometimes in family settings, one thing I find is that's really healthy is engaging or including your family in some of your self-care activities. And that's one thing I love about St. George is if it's not raining like it has been recently, which is very rare, it's very good to, I see a lot of people, a lot of families going out for walks or going out for hikes in the canyons and things of that nature. So it helps people stay on their self-care track, but it also includes those people so they don't feel like they're excluding them.
Yeah, I love that. And not only just on that like physical and mental and emotional piece. I think a huge bit of self-care that we can talk about right now along this topic line is taking care of yourself enough to say, oh, I'm so sorry, I'm not going to be able to make it, right?
Yes.
Like figuring out where the appropriate no's, like, oh gosh, I love you so much, but no, thank you. That's not really going to work for me this year, or give my love to all those people that are going to be at that gathering, but unfortunately I'm not going to be able to make it. Like that's a big piece of self-care.
It is being able to say no. And one of the first things we have to do in order to be able to set that boundary with others is we have to set the boundary with ourselves first. And we have to set a boundary with ourselves that we will not allow ourselves to guilt load or shame ourselves. We are the biggest source of our own guilt and shame. So I deal with guilt and shame all the time with people. People are always dealing with guilt and shame. This is one of the biggest issues that we as human beings wrestle with. But what I find is that most of the guilt and shame that people are dealing with and wrestling with every day is of their own creation. That the guilt and shame that they receive from others, especially family members, if you quantify it, it's actually a smaller percentage than the guilt and shame we do of ourselves. So we've got to set a boundary with ourselves. We've got to set a boundary with that guilt and shame cycle, so that if and when I do say no, hey, we're not going to make it, or hey, we need to duck out early, or I've got to do something different or take care of myself, that we set the boundary with ourselves first, that it's okay. It's okay to do that. It's important to be able to take care of ourselves.
Yeah, I love it. And I'm just thinking, like, what a great example if you have kids, you know, or other people that in your life, to be able to model that behavior for them. Like, I love that you started, because we always got to start everything with ourselves, right? If we want to experience more love in our life, we've got to learn how to love ourselves more. If we want to, all these things that we're constantly talking about. But I love that, because I love my parents, and I have wonderful parents, but they were definitely overextenders. You know, like they didn't do a great job at saying no to things. And so we're pretty helter-skelter around the holidays. It's just kind of the normal, you know? So to be able to pattern that for your young ones or your teens, like, this is what we want to, like, to get down and sit together and say, all right, this is how we want our holidays to be. This is how I would like them to be for me, and then execute. And sometimes that takes a no.
Yeah, absolutely.
I think that's cool.
It is important. It is important to be able to do that. The other piece, so self-care is a big piece of that. Being able to say no is kind of one of those side note pieces of having healthy boundaries with that. But the other piece that we've got to do is we've got to communicate. We really need to communicate and be willing to communicate with those around us and let them know where we are, and be true to ourselves. Now, that's a tough one. That's a really hard one. Now, we talk a lot about it in our work, about getting our value from ourselves, feeling grounded within who we are, so that we always speak our truth. Now, that is a hard thing as a human being, because a lot of us have learned, the majority of us have learned, that our value is based upon other people. We've learned to give and give and give and give and give again. And we've learned all these things externally, that's where we get our appreciation and where we get our value. So it is important for us to be able to say no. It is important for us to be able to communicate with others and say, hey, I need to do this for me, or this is how I feel, or I'm not comfortable going over to this house or to this setting. I'm not comfortable bringing, this. I'm not comfortable asking so-and-so. Sometimes family will try and get you to, hey, invite someone, will you confront this? Will you do this? And we've got to be able to stand our truth and say, no, this is something, I feel comfortable you doing, or I'm not comfortable doing that. But we've got to be true to our voice. We've got to be true to how we feel, regardless of what other people are going to think about you, or regardless of what other people are going to say about you. Here's the reality. People are going to talk about you behind your back. If they do, whatever they say, it's none of your business.
I was just thinking
it's none of your business, because it's not behind your back. And if they don't have the courage, and we've all experienced this, if they don't have the courage and the dignity to say it to you, to say it to your face, but they will talk all the way around you, number one, it's probably not true, obviously. And number two, it's none of your business, because it's just not worth drawing your time towards it. And that's the hard part, because we want to turn to our imagination and say, hey, if I say no to this, then everybody's going to talk about me. If I stand up for myself, then so-and-so will be offended, et cetera, et cetera. But that's where we communicate. We go in and we say, hey, can I share with you how I feel about this? I would prefer not to participate in that, or I would prefer to be able to do it at this place, and to stand up for yourself. And then you can always ask, is this something that's offensive, or is this bothering you? Are we okay with that? And those are things that are important for us to be able to do and say, but we have to be able to communicate. That is critical.
I love it. And I think especially too, like, just communicating what your needs are, right? Like, and you can, I love that we're talking about the say no thing, right? Like, it's kind of a bit of a theme right now, right? It's quite okay to say, I would really love to come to that. I love our relationship, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. I would love to get together with you some other time. That weekend doesn't really work for me. Because I already have other obligations, or whatever, right? Like, I just need to take a time out. Like, I've got to have a day for me to be able to get all these other things accomplished, or just to relax and not get crazy.
Wouldn't that be great?
Wouldn't that be great if this time of year wasn't just crazy?
If you just enjoyed this time of year.
Oh my goodness.
Yes.
Yeah. And so, but I love that idea, because I wish that we could read each other's minds sometimes. Sometimes I'm like,
yeah, that
I don't want that. But being able to express our needs and to do so confidently, and know that, you know, I believe that most people always come from a place of good. Like, no one's like really out there trying to be super nasty. And when things come across nasty, they just aren't very getting it very good. You know what I mean? Like, it just doesn't, they don't express and communicate themselves good enough, or they themselves are hurting too.
It's usually an inner issue. Yeah. And if they are being nasty, which does happen out there, it is usually speaking to a greater inner issue that they're having.
Yes.
Which, again, unless they're bringing it to you and saying, help me with it, it's none of your business. If people are having an inner issue and they're not willing to ask for help, you know, that's something. And you can offer, boy, you're being nasty. Maybe you need to talk. You want somebody to listen to, but that's another form, way that we can communicate.
Yeah. Talk about like expressing your needs, right? Like, I'm going to need you to not talk about me like that. Can we have a conversation?
It's peach pie. Calm down. Speaking of pie, I know, last episode, I love pie.
Got back into pie. It snuck back in.
It snuck back in. One of the other things I want to challenge you with that is going to be really important during being true to yourself, and that's what we need to call it, be true to yourself days during these holiday periods, especially with all the company parties and all the family parties and all these things. Taking time for yourself, that self-care piece, the communication piece, but the other thing I really want to add is creating traditions for yourself. Creating traditions for yourself of things that are important for you to do to participate in the holidays. Things that can resonate for you, with you, that help connect you to why you're doing what you're doing. You know, one of our big emphasis here at Turning Leaf is living a value-based life. And the way to put value in our lives is by understanding why we're doing what we're doing. What's the value in it? And so many times we're doing things that have no value. And I see it happen all the time. And I hear families that are going through these processes and people that are going through these processes that what they're participating brings no value to the experience. And some of the traditions and some of the things that they're doing or participating in really bring no value to the table. So my challenge to you individually is to find traditions, things that you do during these holiday periods of time that resonate with you, that speak with you and speak to you, and create a tradition out of that so that you can really feel connected. And I have one of our good friends who really creates a tradition, who really opens herself up to making sure she's really connected to the new year and the way the new year's coming. And it's such a powerful thing when I listen to the little traditions and the little things that she does. It's just the coolest thing to me. And it's something that we really want to work on, is creating those traditions during the holidays so that we feel connected with the holiday.
And I love that you said even creating traditions for yourself, right?
Yes.
Like, it doesn't necessarily have to involve your entire family or a group of friends or any of those other things. Like, once again, it's got to start right here. So I think that that's really beautiful.
Yeah.
Such a great idea.
Some things that you can do with these traditions are getting yourself a gift. And it doesn't have to be a gift that you purchase from the store. It can be writing yourself a letter that you open on Christmas Day or on New Year's Day. It can be lighting a candle for your hopes and dreams, or candle to signify the value of what you're creating. It can be so many different things that you can do that can be an annual process that can be individual for yourself in creating a connection to the holiday, but most importantly, really creating a connection and grounding you to you, because this is about being true to you. And that tradition needs to help you be true to you. All right, I got a high five out of that.
I love it.
I got a high five out of that. I feel good about that. So
I've never done that before, and I'm going to do that this year.
all right.
I'm going to come up with a Kate tradition for Kate.
And I hope you all take the challenge. I hope you all take the challenge. And one of the things that I would challenge you to do, speaking of, is watching, those of you watching this episode, I would challenge you, if you feel open about it, to, in the comments, leave your tradition that you're going to do for yourself.
I love that.
And or tag a friend and challenge them to
take the
challenge of having it, and then talk. Because one thing is, we're winding up, and we're already over, is it is important for us to talk about these things, these topics. The reason we bring them to you is so that you talk about them, get them out in the open, talk to people. So I challenge you to do that. And most importantly, thank you for watching. You're awesome.
We love you. I would particularly be grateful if you put your ideas in the comments, because I think that just helps people like myself get really good ideas.
Yeah, that will help.
Like your new tradition may be something that's like, oh, that would also be perfect for me. So
and thank you for everybody.
I know.
There's comments. Thank you for commenting. We love you too.
We love you too.
And
Rita.
I'm glad you're having those conversations with other people. Please do those things. Thank you all very much. Please like and share our videos, and we will see you all next week on
Monday Night Live.
All right.
Bye.
Bye-bye.